Hey, everyone, and welcome back. We're going to be diving into something that I think a lot of you are probably curious about,
Mm,
and that is making the jump from employee to entrepreneur.
it's a big one.
It is a big one, and we are going to be using a fantastic episode
Yeah.
of Margin World as our guide today.
Yeah.
Um, and believe me, it gets right to the heart of what it takes to make this kind of change.
It really does. And one of the things that struck me most about this episode is that it really captured the internal struggle,
Oh, yeah.
between the pull of a steady paycheck and then also that kind of like desire to create something of your own.
Right.
It's something that a lot of people face.
It is. It is. And it can feel like this
Yeah.
huge insurmountable leap, right?
It can.
But the Marginal World episode does a great job of sort of breaking down the transition into steps.
Yeah.
And the first one being self-assessment,
Of course.
which might sound obvious,
Yeah.
but it's really about digging deep and understanding your strengths, weaknesses, and most importantly, your passions.
I think that's a good place to start.
Okay, so let's unpack this a little bit.
Right.
What does that actually look like in practice?
Well, it's really like taking a deep look at yourself, but through this entrepreneurial lens.
Okay.
I like to think of it as a personal SWOT analysis.
Oh, yeah?
So, like strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats.
Right.
So what skills do you have that you think could translate into a business? What are some areas where maybe you need to like learn and grow a little bit? And what opportunities exist in the market that maybe you are particularly well suited to capitalize on?
Right. And it's not even just about
Yeah.
your professional skills. It's also about your passions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the episode talks about this woman, Sarah, who was a marketing manager, but she loved to bake.
Oh, fun.
And she didn't just wake up one day and quit her job to open a bakery.
No,
She started small, now like selling cupcakes at local markets on the weekends.
a good way to start.
And so what I found so interesting about this is how this side hustle allowed her to kind of test the waters, gain valuable business experience
Mhm.
while still having that security of her full-time job.
Definitely. And I think that is one of the key takeaways here is minimizing that risk.
Hmm.
Side hustles are such an incredible tool to kind of validate your business idea without having to go all in.
Right.
And thankfully now we've got the gig economy that's made it even easier than ever to do this.
So true.
Think about platforms like Upwork for freelancers or Etsy if you're into crafts,
Right.
or even Shopify for aspiring e-commerce entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
So it's really about experimenting and kind of refining your offering before taking that big leap.
I love that. And it can be so rewarding too.
It can.
The episode also tells this story of John Grana, who was a software developer, and he built mobile apps as a side hustle.
Mm.
And here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Over a couple of years, he actually managed to build his side income to match his salary,
Wow.
which is amazing.
That's incredible.
That's got to be so motivating for anyone thinking about making a change, right?
It really is. And I think John's story highlights a couple of really crucial points.
Okay.
First is the power of consistent effort.
Yeah.
He didn't achieve that overnight success, obviously.
Right.
And second, it really underscores the importance of that financial preparation.
Mm-hmm.
So this leads us nicely into the next step in this whole transition, which is building a safety net.
Yep.
The Margin World episode recommends aiming for about 6 to 12 months of living expenses saved up.
That makes a lot of sense to me because it gives you that breathing room to focus on building your business without the pressure of having to immediately replace your income.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of people get really hung up on the financial aspect.
Mm-hmm.
They think you need a ton of capital to get started.
Yeah, it's a common misconception.
Right. And this is where I think the episode debunks a really common myth, is you don't necessarily need a huge investment up front.
No, you don't. And bootstrapping, which essentially just means using your savings and reinvesting your earnings, is a completely viable option, especially in those early stages.
Yeah.
And it forces you to be resourceful
Right.
and really prioritize your spending.
So it's about being smart with your money, not necessarily having a lot of it.
Exactly.
Right.
And-
And of course, there are other funding options, small business loans, crowdfunding,
Sure.
maybe even angel investors down the line.
Yeah.
But what the episode really emphasizes, I think, is that money isn't the magic ingredient.
No.
Execution is key.
Yes.
It's about putting in the work, being adaptable, and just learning as you go.
It really is. And it's so easy to get caught up in the idea that you need to have this perfect plan and all of these resources before you can even get started.
Oh, yeah.
But entrepreneurship is really about learning by doing.
Totally.
And that's incredibly empowering
It is.
to kind of take those reins and learn as you go,
Yeah,
you know?
for sure.
Yeah. And that actually leads us perfectly into the next stage of this transition.
Okay.
So you've got that financial groundwork laid. Now it's time to think about the skills you'll need to succeed.
And this is where I think it can feel a little overwhelming for some people.
It can.
Right. Because as an entrepreneur, you're essentially wearing all the hats,
You are. Yeah.
marketing, sales, finance, customer service.
Yeah.
It goes on and on.
The list is endless.
Right.
But the Margin World episode offers some really practical advice here.
Okay.
And it really boils down to identifying your core strengths
Okay.
and focusing on those.
Mm-hmm.
And for everything else, there's always the option to outsource.
Right.
Remember Maria,
Yeah.
the teacher who launched that online tutoring platform?
Mm-hmm.
She knew she needed to learn the basics of web design,
Right.
but she hired freelance developers for the more technical aspects.
Right. So it's about recognizing your limitations and knowing when to bring in expertise.
Absolutely.
You don't have to be a master of everything.
Exactly. And that brings us to another crucial aspect of this step,
Okay.
building your network.
Oh, yeah.
Connecting with other entrepreneurs,
Yeah.
mentors, potential partners.
Because you can be lonely, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the beginning. So finding your tribe is super important.
It's so important.
Yeah.
And the episode really emphasizes the value of community.
Yeah.
So joining local business groups, attending industry events, even just connecting with other entrepreneurs online.
I love that.
These connections can provide so much support, advice,
Yeah.
and even just open doors to new opportunities.
It's like having a sounding board for your ideas.
Totally.
People who understand what you're going through.
Absolutely.
The unique challenges and rewards of running your own business.
Unique experience for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of challenges, let's talk about one of the biggest shifts in mindset that I think happens
Okay.
when you make the transition from employee to entrepreneur.
All right.
And the episode calls it embracing uncertainty,
Ooh, that's a good one.
right? Because I think as employees, we're often conditioned to avoid risk, follow procedures, stay within the lines.
Yes,
But as entrepreneurs, we have to be comfortable with the unknown.
we do.
We have to be able to pivot, adapt, even embrace failure as a learning experience.
Totally. And that is easier said than done.
Way easier said than done right.
Most of us are programmed to fear failure.
Totally.
But I love that the Margin World episode includes this great quote from Thomas Edison
Oh, yeah.
about finding 10,000 ways that don't work.
Right.
It's such a good reminder that setbacks are inevitable.
Yeah.
But it's how we respond to those setbacks that define our success.
So true.
Yeah.
So it's not just about having a great idea.
No.
It's about having that grit and determination to see it through, even when things get tough.
Exactly. And that leads us to another critical aspect of building a successful business,
Okay.
which is creating a compelling brand and connecting with your audience.
Which is more than just having a logo and a website,
It's
right?
so much more.
It's about telling a story,
Yeah.
establishing trust, creating a community around your brand.
Totally. And now the digital landscape gives us so many tools to do this.
Oh my gosh, so many.
So many.
Right.
The episode highlights platforms like Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, all places where you can share your journey,
Yeah.
showcase your expertise, connect with potential customers in a really genuine way.
Right. And the key word here is consistency.
Yes.
It's not about sporadic bursts of activity.
No, it's not.
It's about showing up regularly,
Yeah.
engaging with your audience, and delivering value over time.
Totally.
That's how you build trust and credibility.
It's about being authentic and building relationships.
Yes.
People can spot a phony a mile away.
A mile away. Right.
Yeah, and in today's world, authenticity is more important than ever.
It is.
People want to connect with brands that share their values, that tell stories, that resonate with them.
So it's about being clear about who you are, what you stand for, what makes you unique,
Yes.
and then communicating that consistently across all your channels.
Exactly. And once you've laid that foundation, then you can start thinking about scaling your business, which can be incredibly exciting, but also a bit daunting.
Right. The idea of growth is appealing,
Yes.
but it also requires careful planning and execution.
It does. The episode uses Sarah R. Baker as an example.
Oh, yeah.
As her business grew, she invested in equipment. She hired staff.
Right.
and she expanded online.
Mm.
But what's important is that she did all of this strategically
Right.
without burning herself out.
So it's not just about getting bigger. It's about getting better,
Exactly.
putting systems and processes in place that
Yes.
can support sustainable growth.
Exactly. And it's also about understanding that success isn't a one-size-fits-all concept.
But it's so important.
You know,
Yeah.
for some entrepreneurs, it might be about achieving financial freedom.
Yeah.
For others, it might be about having more time with their families or just pursuing their passion and making a living doing what they love.
That's such an important point. That we all have different definitions of success.
We do.
And that's something that the Margin World episode really emphasizes.
It does.
That deeply personal nature of the entrepreneurial journey.
It is a journey.
Right. It's about figuring out what success means to you
Yeah.
and then creating a business that supports that vision.
Absolutely.
Welcome back, everyone. As we're wrapping up our deep dive into this whole world of entrepreneurship,
Mm-hmm.
I keep thinking about how much ground we've covered.
Yeah. It's hard to process.
A lot.
Yeah.
And I think one of the biggest takeaways, for me at least, is that there's no one right way to do this.
Right.
You know, this transition from employee to entrepreneur,
Yeah.
it's so personal.
It is.
It's about self-discovery and experimentation and just figuring out what works for you.
Absolutely. And I think the Margin World episode really does such a good job of highlighting that.
It does.
You know, it gives us this roadmap, but it also encourages us to adapt that roadmap to our own unique circumstances and goals.
And I think that's really empowering.
It is. It reminds us that we really have the power to shape our own destinies.
Yeah.
And that's something I wanted to touch on a bit more.
Okay.
That shift in mindset that happens when you become your own boss.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's not just about the logistics of starting a business. It's about embracing a whole new way of thinking.
It's almost like you're rewiring your brain.
Yeah.
Right? You're moving from this world of relative certainty,
Mm-hmm.
you know, a regular paycheck, set hours.
Right. The 9 to 5.
Yeah. And then you're going into this world where you're calling the shots,
Yes,
but also taking on so much more responsibility.
you are.
So as an expert,
Yeah.
how did you navigate that mental and emotional shift?
Well, I think for me, it was a gradual process.
Okay.
But one of the biggest hurdles I had to overcome was the fear of failure.
Yeah.
You know, I was so used to operating in this world where mistakes were seen as negative.
Right.
But as an entrepreneur, you really have to learn to reframe failure as a learning opportunity.
And the episode talks about this too,
It does.
about the importance of embracing uncertainty.
Yeah.
And I think that really resonates with a lot of people
Mm-hmm.
who are considering making this leap because it is scary
It's terrifying.
to step outside of your comfort zone
It is.
and go into the unknown.
But it's also incredibly exhilarating.
Yeah.
You know, there's that sense of freedom
Mhm.
and possibility that comes with being your own boss.
Really does.
That's hard to describe.
I bet.
And the more you embrace that uncertainty,
Yeah.
the more comfortable you become with taking risks,
Right.
pushing your own boundaries.
So it's almost like a muscle that you have to develop.
It is.
This ability to tolerate discomfort and uncertainty.
Totally.
And the more you use it, the stronger it gets.
Exactly. And I think that applies to every aspect of entrepreneurship.
Right.
From testing new ideas to marketing your business to managing your finances.
Yeah.
There are going to be challenges, there are going to be setbacks, but it's how you respond to those challenges
Right.
that ultimately determines your success.
And that brings us back to a point that I think we touched on earlier.
Yeah.
About the importance of building a supportive network.
So important.
Right, because you don't have to do this alone.
You really don't. And
Mhm.
having that community of like-minded individuals, other entrepreneurs, mentors, advisors,
Yeah.
it can make all the difference.
It can.
You know, these are people who get it.
Yeah.
They understand what you're going through,
Mhm.
and they can offer advice and encouragement when you need it most.
Absolutely. It's like having a cheering section on
Yeah.
the sidelines of your entrepreneurial marathon.
I love that.
And speaking of marathons, we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
You know, we've talked about all these practical steps involved in transitioning from employee to entrepreneur,
Yeah.
from self-assessment and side hustles
Mm.
to financial preparation, skill building,
Yeah.
and that crucial mindset shift
Yes.
that needs to happen.
It does. And I think we've done a pretty good job of unpacking some of those key insights
Yeah,
from the Margin World episode.
for sure.
But I want to leave our listeners with one final thought, a question to kind of ponder.
All right.
As you continue on this journey of exploring your entrepreneurial dreams,
Mm-hmm.
imagine yourself a year from now.
Okay.
Having taken consistent action towards your goals.
Yeah,
What does that look like?
I love
What
that.
does it feel like?
I love that question
Yeah,
because it really is all about taking that first step.
it
No
is.
matter how small,
It is.
it's about believing in yourself and your vision and then taking consistent action to bring that vision to life.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
And remember, you don't have to have all the answers right now.
You don't.
The journey itself will teach you so much.
It will so embrace the unknown, be kind to yourself, and remember that the possibilities are truly endless.
That's such a great note to end on. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. And until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.